Hi, this is Bishop Craig in Lansing in a cold basement, and this is take one for the week of the 19th of March. Peace be with you. So on Monday, I meet with a church council. On Tuesday, we have executive committee. On Wednesday, I have staff meeting. On Thursday, I have a couple of church-wide Zoom meetings, and then I'm going to read rostered minister reports. And on Saturday, we have church council. So it is not an overly busy week, but a full week. I'm continuing to do much of this work alone, do for two. And so I appreciate people that are praying for me. I appreciate very much people that are calling me or calling the office and leaving a message so that I can call them back. I can take care of 3 to 5 phone calls in the time it takes me to write an email. And so I know some people just like their email because then they can push send and they've done their work and they're all done. But if it requires a long multi-part answer these days, the email you're going to get in response from me is, those are great questions. Please give me a call and I'm happy to either discuss them with you or to tell you the answers. I just don't have a lot of time to be writing well thought out emails these days. Siri is not cooperating. I dictate my emails and she's saying things twice. So then I have to go back and really edit them and make them look nice and all that stuff. And I just don't have time to do it. So that is the deal on email. On Sunday, we get to hear the story of Jesus raising Lazarus. And how much more we would rather say, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died, than to confess with Jesus, Jesus is the resurrection and the life. You see, the good news of this reading is that Jesus brings life out of death. Jesus brings new life out of death. But we would rather just Jesus negate or sidestep or stop death so nobody dies. And I understand that. We love our loved ones and we don't want them to die. And we love our lives and we don't want to die. And we love our institutions and we don't want them to die, and we love our worldview and our way of life and we don't want those things to die. And I guess if they could go on in an idyllic state, that'd be great. But to live forever with sickness or dementia, maybe the time comes to die. I've been working a lot this week on Synod Assembly, and I'm finding that there are people that just are trying really hard to get back to some past experience of Synod Assembly, the way it used to be and the way we remember it. And, that's not going to happen, even though we're having an in-person assembly. And I'm struck by the fact that if people can be so intent over something of such relative unimportance as a synod assembly, how much more intent are they to try to get their congregation back to some past thing to avoid death? And so I'm newly aware that pastors not only have to try to save the congregation, but they have to save like cherished ministries within the congregation, or they have to try to save ways the congregation has always done things, or they need to somehow save leadership that was in charge 40 years ago and still wants to be. So it's much harder than just keeping the institution going. We seem to want no death at all. And the good news of this reading about Lazarus is Jesus brings life out of death. Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. Because there will be death. There certainly was death for Lazarus, and he died again. And there will be death for Jesus. And, he could have, avoided death? But he entered into death and brought life out of death. There will be death for our loved ones and for us and for the church and our institutions and our way of life and our worldview as they used to be. There will be death, but Jesus brings life out of death. Jesus brings life out of death. That is the promise of baptism, not that we will never die, but that when we die, Jesus will raise us to new life. 40 years ago, I sat with someone who was near death, and I had that kind of relationship where I could ask, what is this like? And the person said, the moment will come when I will, the person said, need to surrender, to lean into death and trust that Jesus' promise is true. I will need to throw myself into the abyss of death and trust that God is there to catch me. The good news is that Jesus will raise us to new life, and that in the waters of baptism, God has already caught us. We will land safe and secure. So, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Jesus delays to say that is not the point. The point is that Jesus is the resurrection and the life, and that Jesus will bring life out of death, any death, all death. And yeah, the day will come when death will be no more, but the world will be new, as God wants it, not as we want it. So we'll still be dealing with change. I'm Bishop Craig, and this is Take One. Thank you for your prayers, and may the peace of Christ be with you always. Take care.